Award winner Tony Elliott. We'll turn it over to John from the Sugar Bowl for moderation. John?
I like how you threw that one in there.
Hey, Coach Elliott, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. We know you have a lot going on, so we'll try to get you taken care of quick so you can get back to your preparation, and we'll see you in New Orleans in a few days. I'd like to start off, if you're good with just making a brief opening statement, then we'll go to questions.
You want me to make an opening statement?
Yeah, if you're good with that, or we can go right to questions if you prefer.
Hey, I'm not much of an opening statement guy. I like to give the guys the opportunity to ask questions.
Absolutely. We'll start off with Ross Dellinger from Sports Illustrated.
Hey, Tony, can you tell us what you did exactly for Michelin, maybe where you were based, what your job duties were, and how and why you returned to coaching?
So when I started, I was hired on as an industrial engineer. That's what I graduated from Clemson with a degree in industrial engineering. And part of my job was just try to figure out how to optimize, some of the systems and the processes that they had in place. In particular, I was working with a production unit. The plant that I was at was actually manufacturing all the rubber that you ship off to the tire plants where they actually build the tires. And so we were just trying to optimize the weight per pallet of the fabricated rubber so that we can maximize the weight on a shipping truck, so that we can cut down the costs. And so that's where I started. And then from there, that was my first, when you go to work for Michelin as an industrial engineer, they put you in a program. So I had a 6-month study. That was my project there. Once I finished that, then I just integrated into working with a couple of business units within the plant and just trying to help them figure out how to optimize everything from the raw materials, the machinery, and then also the human input.
Next, we'll go to Matt Connolly from The State.
Hey, Tony, I was just wondering with Tyson and the situation his family went through, how did you all try to help him, and what's it been like for you guys on offense trying to help him?
It's a really tough situation. And I remember, and just thinking back, I know Grady went through a similar situation, but as it relates to Tyson, biggest thing is we were able to get a waiver to be able to, contribute to the GoFundMe page for him and his family. You just think about all the immediate needs that you would have in a situation when your house burns down, things that we take for granted. So the biggest thing is just, trying to support him emotionally as he goes through that difficult time. And then those who are able to contribute, just trying to help them reach their goal on their GoFundMe page.
Next will be Nathan Baird from Cleveland.com.
Hey, Tony, some of the names and faces on Ohio State's defense are the same from last year, but they've moved around a little bit. One in particular, Pete Werner, who was their Sam linebacker this year, moving over to Will. Anything that jumps out at you on film about him and in that new role and what he means to this defense?
Pete was a guy that going into the game, you don't realize just how good of an athlete he is. Watching him on tape is when you play him in person that you see that he's a guy that's got a big body, but he can move well, move like a safety. He can cover. And then what you see now with him playing inside the box, he just has natural instincts. He can find the ball. And then obviously with his movement skills, he moves quickly so he can get around blocks. Then he's also big enough to be able to set the edge too, if he's ever in that situation. So, he's a guy that from last year, that after the game, you had a lot of respect for him. And then some of the other faces too. And it's been tough too. I understand that they've been battling issues with COVID. And so he's been asked to play a lot of different positions, just as Browning's been asked to play a lot of different positions. So all those guys, you can tell that they're doing what it takes to be successful. And the structure looks very, very similar. As you said, some of the names and faces are new, but the product looks very, very similar.
We'll now go to David Hood from TigerNet.com.
Hey, Coach. Yeah, it kind of piggybacking off of that. Obviously, the personnel has changed. They were so good in the middle last year, so good on the edge. Do you see a lot of similarities there, with how they try to attack and the success that they've been having?
They were very good in the middle, on the edges, and on the back end last year, and they're very, very similar. Again, a lot of the faces and names may be new, but the structure, the tenacity that they play with, they're very, very well coordinated. Everybody understands what their role is, how they fit. They're not out of position much. They fit their gaps. If you are lucky to be able to make them step up in pass protection, they know exactly where they need to go. Once they diagnose, they know their drop spots, their reading routes. So a lot of this stuff is very similar to last last year with the difference. The only difference is just the names and the faces. But, what you can tell, they understand structurally, offensively, what you're trying to do. They have their guys very, very well prepared. You could tell that number 32, tough in the middle, very, very smart linebacker, helps those guys get lined up. They've had to play some different guys inside and on the defensive line throughout the course of the year. But, you can't really tell a difference between those guys, 11 and 0. I mean, they pretty much are splitting images of each other. And then you got the length at number 9 on the edge. They know how to play the zone read. So again, I know the coordinator may be different, but the product is very, very similar.
We'll now go to David Hale from ESPN.
Hey, Tony, as a Clemson lifer and a guy who knows the program and knows the history, I don't want to read too much into sort of what fans think about things, but for a long time, as this level of success continued to grow, you guys were the good guys fighting against the Alabama evil empire in a lot of fans' minds outside of Clemson fans. It feels like maybe this year more than ever, you guys have sort of been in that cachet of the bad guys too, because of all the success you've had. Is that something that anybody takes notice of inside the program? I know Dabo has always liked playing the little old Clemson underdog card as a way of motivating things. Does being the bad guy sort of be its own motivation a little bit?
I don't think that we look at it from that perspective. Coach always says that right is right, wrong is wrong. And so when Coach Sweeney believes in something, man, he's going to say what he believes, and he's going to act accordingly with what he believes. And obviously, I know there's been a lot of back and forth with some comments from last year, and then some of the things with Coach's ranking. But he believed that was the right thing to do, and it wasn't anything in disrespect to Ohio State, but it was just based off of the totality of the season and the sacrifices that a lot of teams had to make. But for us, several years back, we also adopted the mantra, embrace the target. We were no longer going to be little old Clemson that could sneak up on people, that whenever we stepped on the field, we were going to get everybody's best. And so for us, it's just about embracing the target, staying true to our fundamentals on the field, but also our fundamentals and core values off the field. And then understand that with success comes scrutiny, but always resetting every single year back to what the foundation of the program is, and then building off of that as each team creates their own identity throughout the season.
We're now going to go to Tony Gerdeman from Buckeye Scoop.
Tony, I'm wondering if you feel like you know more about the Ohio State defense based on the game last year or based on the film you've seen this year?
Yeah, as I said earlier, in response to some of the questions, the structure is very, very similar. Obviously, I know there's two different coordinators between the last time we played them and this season, but they still have the similar structure. They play the same coverages, very similar pressures. I anticipate they're going to have some things that we got to adjust to throughout the course of the game. But it's a combination of getting ready for this one, making sure that we understood from last year's tape where we needed to improve, because obviously it's professional courtesy. They're going to try and attack some of the things that they had some success attacking last year, and we got to make sure that we've fixed those, and then they're going to build upon the strengths of this team. Even though the structure is similar, each team, just as like us on offense, each unit is going to have their own identity, and so they're going to play to the strengths of their identity. They're going to test and make sure that we corrected the issues from last year, but I think it's just going to come down to, at the end of the day, you get to this point doing what you do. You're not going to get away from what your base offense is. You're going to have a couple of game plan wrinkles, but at the end of the day, in this one, on the biggest stage, when the lights are bright, there's going to be a lot of emotion in this game. You got to make sure that you put your players in a position to be successful, and the best way to do that is to just do what you do and do what has gotten you to the point to be in this game.
Next up will be Paul Meyerberg from USA Today.
Hey, Tony. If Deshaun's remembered as the guy who helped orchestrate the program's next step from 2014 through 16, what do you believe Trevor Lawrence's legacy or long-standing impact will be when his time ends at Clemson?
Oh, man, that's a tough question. Because Deshaun was great, and he took us to the promised land. It's not a situation where Deshaun didn't win a national championship, and then Trevor's won one, and having an opportunity to play in another. But I think the biggest thing for Trevor, I think his legacy is going to be his record, being the all-time winningest quarterback in school history. But more importantly, I think it's going to be the impact that he made on the game of college football with some of the stances that he took, in particular this season. But most importantly, he's just like Deshaun, man. They're humble young men. They love to win. They love to compete. They love to do it the right way. And they're about service too to their teammates and their community. So I think the legacies will be similar. And as time goes by, you know how it is. The legends is always going to grow. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing what that legacy is down the road.
We'll now go to Anna Hickey from Clemson 24/7.
Hey, Tony. Dabo mentioned yesterday that the wide receivers didn't exactly play their best game versus Ohio State last year. I know it's largely a different group this year, but is that something that you can point to just kind of to challenge them going into this game?
No doubt, and really the wide receivers, the interior of the offensive line, Travis in pass protection. We put a couple balls in jeopardy in the passing game. Unfortunately, we were able to make enough plays in the end to win the game. So everybody's going to be challenged to play better because we know that they're going to come in and they want it just as bad as we do, and we're going to have to execute. But the wide receivers were challenged last year, and I made reference to that in a previous question that they're probably going to try and attack us the same way, I would imagine. Get up there and press our guys and see can they have more success. Who's going to have more success, their corners or our receivers in terms of winning the matchup at the line of scrimmage. And so biggest thing for us is making sure that we don't try and do too much, but we're well aware of the things we need to improve upon and then have the right state of mind. Because last year, I think going into it, they came out and they punched us in the mouth. It's been a while since we've been in a heavyweight fight in reference to last season. And it took us they blooded our nose. It took us a little while to rebound and then really kick it in gear. But in this game right here, we're not going to be fortunate enough to be able to have that mindset. We got to come in and we got to set the tempo early with what we're doing on offense. We got to match their physicality and their intensity in the trenches. And then guys got to go make competitive plays.
We have time for one more question. We'll go to Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports.
Hey, Tony, there's a reason the wishbone isn't run anymore. The veer isn't run anymore. Will there be a day that defenses sort of quote unquote catch up to the spread in RPOs? Because, guys like Brett Venables are game planning against it every day.
Right. I'd say in reference to this question here is it may not be the wishbone, but there's a lot of option principles still floating around, at the college level, and it's even trickling back up to the NFL level. So I think that, as it's always a cat and mouse, and just as they're going to try and find ways to stop the new trends, we're always going to be looking for new trends, and then we'll recycle things. I even think the Chiefs, put a bone formation out there a couple of times this season. So I think that it's a revolving cycle. Things come and go, and it's cat and mouse, and everybody's trying to stay one step ahead. But just as tempo was a new thing. Defenses figured out how to be able to call their game, even with the element of tempo, and so then you have to transition there. So I think it's just constantly going to be cat and mouse going forward, and offensively, we're trying to stay ahead of the curve, just like defensively they want to try and see if they can get the advantage as well. So at the end of the day, football is always going to be about angles and numbers. When you boil it down and winning one-on-one matchups. And so schemes are great, but when you get to this point in the season, schemes, you're going to have them. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the Jimmies and the Joes that are going to make things go.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time this afternoon, Coach. We'll let you get back to preparation now and look forward to seeing you down here in New Orleans in a few days.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to click on that subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. And come visit us over at BuckeyeGrove.com for all the best Ohio State information on the web.